Hi, everyone. This is Birdie from the Moralis events team, and today we have another workshop for the hackathon. So we have David here who's going to be showing us how to build a game using Unity. So I'll let David take it away.
Hey, thanks, Birdie. I really appreciate all you're doing to make this possible. Hi, everyone. This is David, aka Exactant. You may have seen me in some of the forums. It's really great to do this, to be here in front of everyone and to present the Moralis integration with Unity. We've been working hard on this. We've got some ways to go yet still, but what we have, I think, is something to be proud of. So today what I want to do is to go through why use Moralis to work with Unity 3D. Then we're going to look at the boilerplate project and kind of dig into that, look at the code, look at some of the code that interacts with Moralis from Unity. We may look at a little bit at some of the Unity objects and how they interact with each other. And then I want to get into where we are at this point and where we're going and how that can help you. Go over some tools that can make your game development easier, and then we'll have some time for questions and answers. So let's just get into it. So why Moralis? Well, Moralis just gives you a lot of stuff. There's a lot of functionality that you get from Moralis. There's the free layer, of course, where you can try out everything. It gives you the nodes. It gives you all the Web3 API. So you have all this interaction with the chain that's already pre-indexed. So you don't have to do that. And of course, there's all the cloud functions and plugins and other things. And of course, all the support from the great community. So Moralis is basically, and you've heard this before, but it's like the Firebase or the AWS for crypto development. And when Ivan announced this back in March, when Ivan and Philip announced this back in March, I was really excited and started working and beta testing with it. And then when they had the first hackathon, I got involved in that and was active in the forums. And all that led to today where I can be in front of you. So please make sure you're taking part of this hackathon, be involved in the forums and the gatherings, and interact with everybody because you're going to make some great connections, and it's a great time and it's a great community to be with. So Unity allows you to, so Unity gives you access to a lot of great platforms. So you have native Windows applications, iOS applications, Android, Xbox, if you have a license from Microsoft. It also gives you the ability for things like PlayStation. Again, you have to have extra plugins and licenses for that. There's a huge community around Unity. When we get into the tool section, I'll show some more of that. There is a lot of material that you can use to learn. The community there is very supportive, as well as the Moralis community is very supportive. And then for scripting the games, it uses a language called C# or C#.net, as you may have heard. And this is a C-like language. If you're currently using JavaScript and haven't used another language, you'll see that the syntax is very similar. There are some major differences in how C# handles types. And you'll get into that as part of your learning, as you're learning and growing and using Unity. And again, there's a huge community. So with that, let's take a quick look at the demo. Hopefully a lot of you, and I know a lot of you have, but hopefully you have taken the time to go to the GitHub and look at the code and pull it down and play with it. And that's what we're going to do today. So I'm in our GitHub, and if you could just type in GitHub Ethereum boilerplate into Google, and then you'll scroll down through the menu and you'll find the Ethereum Unity boilerplate. The code is here and it's open source, so you can feel free to fork it and play with it. But if all you want is the package, just go to this link, download it. And then we can open Unity and start working on our application. So I'm opening Unity Hub, and I'll show the link on where to find this. It's on there's a link on the GitHub as well for this, and I'll show again later on. So I am going to select 2020.324 because this is the latest release. That's not beta. So another cool thing about Unity is they have a lot of amazing templates. You can start with 2D games, 3D games. It has templates for VR, for augmented reality, virtual reality, and others as well. But today I'm just going to select a simple 3D game. I'm going to call this Moralis Demo. And it'll take a minute to come up.
Hey, David, really quick. Could you zoom in a little bit? I think it's a little bit hard to see.
On Unity?
Oh, just on any of the text is hard to read.
For the slides or for Unity itself?
I mean, even just zooming in on the web page, or I think we're good. If you could just make the screen bigger, but I think it's okay.
Okay. So this is the Unity 3D IDE. And if you've never used it before, there's a gotcha that you should be aware of. Before we import any packages, we want to make sure that Visual Studio is associated with the IDE. For Windows, we can go to Edit, Preferences. If you're using a Mac, there'll be another menu that says Unity, and the Preferences link will be there. And then we go to External Tools and find External Script Editor, and we make sure that it's set to Visual Studio. And I'm using 2019 because that is the latest that's supported with Unity. So even though I've got 2022 installed up for Unity, I'm using 2019. So it's very important to do that before you import any packages, especially the Moralis boilerplate package, because if Visual Studio isn't there, then all the links will be broken in the objects. I'm going to the package I downloaded, and I'm simply dragging it and dropping it, and it'll import. And I can select what I want to keep in here. So for example, later on, if I'm used to how everything is working, I can just like not include my example and then just include the Moralis code. But right now I'm going to take everything. I know this is just a little slow, but I wanted to do it in real time to show you how simple this is. And we're trying to make it as simple as we can too. So I'm going to go to my Moralis folder and find example. and I'm going to my demo scene. And there we go. So you might notice if you come up in scene view, you'll see something like this. Very simply, if you just click on an object, put the mouse over the window and hit the F key, it'll take you right to that object. And then you can scroll around, look around. Okay. So to make this run, I've got to let it know where to find my Moralis server. So I'm clicking on UI Canvas and UI Panel, and there's this main menu script with application ID and server URI. And so I'm going to get my URL. Application ID. Okay. So I could actually run this at this time. And I'm going to run it here in a minute inside the IDE. But before I do that, for everyone that's new to Unity, there's another little gotcha that you need to be aware of before you build. And that is you need to put your scenes into the game. So even though I have my scene here and I can show it and I can actually run it, it's not actually part of the build until I go to build settings and I go to scenes and build and I add my views or my scenes. So for any scene that you want to include in the build, it needs to be in here, and each scene is going to be associated with an index that then you can programmatically use to switch scenes. So while we're here, this also allows me to switch between the different build types. So I can build an Android build, iOS, WebGL, Xbox, and so on. And I'll talk a little bit more about the builds a little bit later. So right now I'm going to leave it where it is. And we're going to go to game. I'm going to make sure that maximize on play is clicked so that it fills up more of the screen, and hit run. Okay, so the demo is running, and you can see it's already working with the mouse. We have some fog rolling in. And I need to wake my phone up. So we're going to authenticate. And since I'm in the desktop mode, it's going to bring up a QR code. And I'm using Trust Wallet at the moment for this. And we're using Wallet Connect. So I'm going to scan the QR code. And it's asking me if I want to connect. And then it'll give me a message to sign, which I'm signing. So once that happens, and we're authenticated, you'll suddenly see that your character has your address. And if you go to your wallet, that's up here in the menu, it's going to load all your tokens and then show you how much ETH you've got in your wallet. And so as part of the demo, I created this little tool just so you can see how to interact with Moralis to simply get this information. All right, and then to walk around, we can use the W key or the S key to go backwards and forwards. If I use the Shift key, the character will run. I can use the mouse to direct where I want to go. It doesn't do anything if I try to hit yet. And that's basically the point of the boilerplate, is just to show that we can create something and integrate it with Moralis. Okay, so one thing you'll notice is that the mouse is trapped on the screen. To simply get out of that, you'd hit escape. Before that, though, I want to quit. And the quit is wired up so that it'll actually log you out of Moralis as well, so that the next time you log in, you'll be able to re-authenticate and then test your authentication and everything. Now, when you're running in the IDE, it's just running the scene that you're on. It's not running the actual game. So even though it's going to do everything when I click quit, at this point, it doesn't actually respond. And so I still have to go out and hit the button to quit. Okay. So at this point, I want to walk through the Boiler project some and talk about what is there. Because the point of a Boiler project is to provide a template plus a few extras that demonstrate how everything works. And so there are parts in there that, of course, you're going to want to remove so that you can use your own game. So just some notes on scenes. Again, you have to add your scene, and this is very important, so I'm going to say it again. You have to add your scene under the Run and Build menu. And then on iOS, you have to run the build. And if you're on a Mac, that's good. If not, you're going to have to transfer the code to a Mac and then use the Xcode tool to actually build the iOS app and test it from the Mac. Also for a Mac, you need to have an Apple developer license. I think they're $99. And it's fairly simple. You just sign up, you pay the fee, you fill out a form, and then in about an hour or so after that, they'll send you the notification and receipt that you have your developer's license. And that allows you to use Xcode to build. And then if you're going to use a device to test on, you have to register that device with Apple as being a test device. And then there's some setup on it as well. For Android, it's a lot simpler. You can basically Google how to put your Android in developer mode, transfer. So you do your build in Unity and it creates an Android APK. You just drop that onto your phone, go to your phone and install it and run it. Very, very simple. With the desktop, of course, you can just generate it and run it. So getting into the boilerplate, what can you get rid of? What do you have to keep? And then we'll get into a few scene objects as well. So I'm going to go back to my project here. And I want to open up my C# project as well. So looking at our assets, so everything that's under Moralis Web3 API SDK is what is downloaded in the boilerplate. The DLL folder contains REST Sharp DLL that is required for Web3 API. The example folder, everything in the example folder can be removed if you want to. Of course, there may be some tools in there that you'll want to reuse. Everything that's under Moralis needs to be kept. And then Wallet Connect and Wallet Connect.unity, those also need to be kept. One of the things I'll get into a little bit later when we're talking about where we're going, the Wallet Connect is actually going to be incorporated into the Moralis package in the future to make it easier. Okay. So if we look at the C# project, we should see basically the same, that the examples folder can be removed and the Moralis folder, Wallet Connect, has to be kept. Now, under examples, there's the third-party stuff, and this isn't ours. This is stuff that I got off of the asset store. It was, completely free. So this is stuff. This is like the characters, the trees, some of the text effects, and so on are there. And then under scripts, you're going to find several things that might be reusable. So, for example, we have a sample player controller, and this code is what helps to animate the character. Of course, the characters that are in the boilerplate are low poly, and they're very simple. They have 4 animations, basically being walk, attack, idle, and die. And that's basically all the characters do. Same with the orcs. Tokenless controller is a sample code that shows how to get your list of tokens. And I will look at that again in a few minutes. The health bar is a little bar that's over the characters themselves. And it's basically made so that when you're in game mode, it's always facing the camera. And so that's kind of a cool, and you'll see that applies to the chest and to the orcs as well, that their toolbar, that their health bar will always face the camera. So that's a cool little example to look at. But again, everything that's under the example folder can be removed. And then everything that's under the Moralis folder should be kept. Okay. So I'm going to take a quick moment to walk through some of the code. I was kind of hoping I'd have time to do some live coding, but we may not have the time. That might have to save that for another time. Okay, so the main menu script you saw on our IDE earlier, and this is kind of like, probably should have been named game controller, and this runs the game. So this tells it which scene to go to. Of course, we only have the one scene. It checks to see that Moralis is instantiated, that the user has been logged in or not. If the user isn't already logged in, it's going to show the authentication button and then respond to clicks to authentication or to quit or to cancel. So for those of you that are new to Unity, you have the normal game cycle. And part of that is object creation and startup. And Unity has a well-documented game cycle for all the objects on game start. If you include a start method, it's going to call that. And so in this case, what we're doing is we are actually we're initializing Moralis. So to make it easier, we've created a Moralis interface object that wraps all of the Moralis functionality to make it easier to work with Unity inside the Unity game. So if you're familiar with the term singleton, I guess you could also translate it as a global variable, though that's not quite right. But the singleton pattern allows us to set values that are available throughout runtime with that object. And so we set up this Moralis interface object to have singleton availability of the Moralis instance. So one thing that's different from working on JavaScript, for the game, we have to have a manifest data. And this tells a little bit about the game. A lot of the times, this is actually taken right off the application, but some of the platforms like iOS and Linux do not support that. And so we provide it ahead of time. So we just fill this data in and we pass it in as part of our initialize. Again, it's one line of code. We're passing in our application ID and our server ID that we entered in to the UI. And that's basically it. We check to see if the user is logged in. And if not, we turn on our authentication button. Then if we look at our authentication button, when it's clicked, we're basically going to play on the main menu. And that is here. So it's going to turn the authentication button off. It's going to, again, check to see if you're logged in. And assuming you're not, since the button's on, you're probably not logged in. It's going to go and authenticate. Now, authentication is going to be handled differently between the different platforms. So we're using Wallet Connect to do authentication, to interact with the wallet. Unfortunately, the Wallet Connect instance for Unity, when it comes to iOS and Android, had some issues, and we've been working with the Wallet Connect developer that's doing the Unity build for Wallet Connect, and he has provided us with a solution for that I'm currently working on, and we'll get out there hopefully within the next week or so as part of the package. For now, when you log in with iOS or with Android, it takes you to what we call Moralis connector that allows you to do authentication with your wallet. Unfortunately, that also means for iOS or Android at the moment, there isn't a way to interact with Ethereum, which means that you can't change state on your contracts. But as I'll explain here in a little bit, we are working on a solution for that as well. Once we get the Wallet Connect code that's been updated, integrated into the SDK, then we'll have that functionality as well. But for right now, depending on what build you selected, it's going to execute a different block of code. Currently, because I'm in PC build, it's going to the QR menu. So it sets that active, and it shows our QR code for me to scan. And that is a Wallet Connect function. However, if we look in our QR code, we'll see that it's looking at Wallet Connect, and again, under our menu, let's see, our panel, sorry. Oh, this is great. This is what doing it live stream does. So it's wired in so that it calls the handler on Wallet Connect for interaction with Wallet Connect. So when I click on the QR code, it brings up my wallet on my phone. When I scan it, once I've connected, it comes back, and I tell it to send a sign. So it signs it. This is what I need to authenticate with Moralis. And once the sign has been done by the user, that response comes back, and then I can log in as well. And I'm going to make this bigger. I'm guessing that's probably a little hard to see on the screen. So again, when I scan the QR code and it asks me to connect, that response comes here. I tell it to sign a message. The signature is returned, and I put it into an auth data object, just like with the JavaScript SDK. And then I use it to log in, and I'll get my user back. Okay. So that is how we achieve login with Moralis. And then if we're going to load data, like from the API, again, I'm going back to the token list controller that I showed earlier. You're going to see it's very similar to the JavaScript SDK. And there's a lot of, well, I'll show these in a minute. There's a lot of code that's on the README of the GitHub that you can basically just copy and paste in. So here I'm calling get token balances, and it goes out and gets them, brings them back, and then it builds my token list. So again, you could look at the example code that we provided with that token, with that wallet modal that shows the list of tokens and balances. I have a wallet balance controller, and I could have combined these, but I put them separate just to make it easier for you to use them however you want to. So again, it's getting the user, getting the address from the user, and then it's calling the get native balance, and this returns my ETH balance. Then just like in JavaScript, I've got to format it. And of course, ETH has 18 decimals. So I've included that as well. Okay. And I'm sorry about the background noise.
5043-5016.
And the phone's not there. So I'm gonna have to suffer through it. Sorry about that. Again, live streaming.
Hello, you have reached the Group channel. It seems we are not picking up, so please call us back later or leave a message when the tone plays. It will in 3, 2, 1.
Thanks, buddy. Oh, you gotta love live streaming. Okay, so we've gone through some of the wrapped code, creating an instance of Moralis, authenticating, and we looked at using the Moralis Web3 API. All right, where are we? And where are we going from here? So the Moralis Web3 API, we have all of the Web3 API inside our Unity build. So everything that you see when you go to your server and go to Web3 API, all of that functionality is available to you. And that demo that I showed you for getting the balance or for getting tokens demonstrates how easy it is to call the Web3 API. What's also available are your cloud functions and your live queries. Let's see, regular queries, creating objects, retrieving the objects with queries. That is all available. The one biggie that is coming out, that's planned to come out for release 2, are plugins. Because there was so much to get done leading up to the hackathon, we decided to put that one thing off until release 2. When is release 2 coming out? We're working on that as well. But it's coming. And then WebGL is another biggie. And I've had some comments about this and some discussion with some of the users. There is an issue with WebGL, and it's not part of Moralis. It's not part of Unity. It's just the way that WebAssembly works. And that is, it doesn't allow you to do asynchronous calls or multi-threading, and it doesn't support calling WebSockets. So live queries are fully dependent upon WebSockets, and everything that we do inside the SDK is dependent upon asynchronous calls back to the back end. So at the moment, if you run WebGL, you'll probably end up with a blank screen most of the time. And I say most of the time because every now and then it seems to work a little bit and then it hangs up. But it'll hang on any of the asynchronous calls, whether that's to Moralis or to Wallet Connect. So again, we're working with the Wallet Connect developer for Unity. And then also we have a plan. It's more than a plan. I'm actually working on it now. And that is, there's a library called Unitask that was made specifically for Unity and handling the multi-threading calls in WebGL inside WASM, WebAssembly. And so I am currently porting part of the, I'm currently porting all the back-end code for the SDK to use Unitask. And it's a little bit of a learning curve. but so far it looks promising. And I hope to have that work done in the next couple weeks. So our plan is in the next couple weeks to be able to have WebGL working with Unitask to run the multi-threading. And then there's a built-in library that Unity has for web and web connections that we're going to try to replace the live query calls with. Okay, Wallet Connect and Ethereum. I had mentioned earlier that there is a bit of an issue with Wallet Connect on iOS and Android. It kind of gets caught in this loop when it's doing the signing. And we've worked with the developer and he's provided a solution. And we're currently integrating that now. So again, when we release the WebGL fix, we'll also be releasing the fix for Wallet Connect and Ethereum. And then we've got a lot of plans for a lot of other integration to make other workings inside Unity easier, and then some tools that we want to provide for our developers as well. Okay. So some important tools that'll help you build your games and to work with Unity. We have Unity documentation. So the Unity documentation is very thorough, it's very good, it's specific to the different releases. Just about any problem that you run into or question that you have about what's available, how the code works, you can find here. Then also Unity has what they call Unity Learn, which is a series of classes. These are really good. So whether you're new to Unity or you've used Unity in the past and just want to enhance your skills, going through these walkthroughs and working on these different projects will take you far. They're very detailed. Some of them will take several hours to get through, but they're definitely worth doing, especially if you're serious about learning how to use Unity to create games. If you're looking for assets, the best place to go is the Unity Asset Store. You can find a lot of free assets here for the boilerplate, the orcs, the trees, the castle, the chest, and the soldier were all free assets out of the asset store. If you can't find what you're looking for, some other tools you have available to you are GIMP. GIMP is a free image manipulation tool, and this is completely open source and is basically just as powerful as Adobe Photoshop. And if you've used Adobe Photoshop and you need a replacement for it, the GIMP is very similar in the way it works. Also, Blender is another tool. Blender is fully open source and is one of the most widely used tools for creating 3D objects, 3D characters, animations. In fact, you can use Blender to create games as well. It's, in my opinion, it's not quite as easy as Unity, but it's probably the best modeling tool for creating 3D objects. Unity has some tools built in to do that. I find it's easier to use Blender personally, but that's a personal preference. And then finally, for animations is Mixamo, and it's really cool. This is provided by Adobe, but it's free. You do have to sign up and get their newsletter and so on, send them your email. But it's really cool. You can select different characters. So let's get this guy. And then find animations. And they've got everything from combat to dancing. And so it's kind of cool to get a character like this and make him dance. Okay, and then finally, YouTube. My favorite is this guy, Brackies. Unfortunately, he no longer does YouTube videos, but he has got hundreds of videos that are just amazing at the information that he provides and the walkthroughs and the details that he goes through and showing you how to do different things in Unity. And besides Brackies, there are other YouTubers as well that create Unity content. So it's very easy if you have a problem or you're wanting to figure out how to do certain things, whether it's animation or working with lighting, working with sound, working with blending colors, creating textures, creating materials, creating interactions between characters and objects. YouTube, of course, is one of the go-to places for that, for explaining how to do things. Okay, so that is the basic content that I wanted to cover. And again, I really apologize for that phone interruption. Wasn't expecting that. And at this time, I want to go to questions and answers. So, Birdie, are you there?
Yes, hi.
Hi.
Let's see. So we have a couple questions. Let's see, from Gregory. So no need to integrate with MetaMask. No web browser pop-up. Does that sound right?
With WebGL, there may be. With the others, no. Now, just a note on MetaMask, even in mobile, Wallet Connect has a version 1 and a version 2, and I believe that MetaMask is using version 1. And so there are times when I've used MetaMask and it hasn't worked the way I've expected. That's fairly common. Wallet Connect is working directly with the MetaMask team to get that corrected. So usually when I'm interacting with Wallet Connect, especially on mobile, I want to use a wallet such as Trust Wallet or IM Token or Rainbow Wallet, something other than MetaMask. So MetaMask will work sometimes, but a lot of times on mobile, with Wallet Connect, it tends to be slow.
And I changed the view too if you want to have a look at the chat. Is that helpful or?
Yeah. Yeah. Okay, let's see. Okay, that's chain ID. Someone's asking, and I'm not sure if we're at the top or not. Are there any questions, other questions, Brie, that you've highlighted, or should I just start with what I can see?
Yeah, let's see. If people do have questions, feel free to drop them in the chat. Let's see. It looks like maybe about Avalanche.
Okay, let's see. I'll start with returners asking, can we pick up NFTs in the game? In the boilerplate, that's not programmed in, but yes, when you can create a game where you can mint and distribute NFTs. The minting part is going to require the Wallet Connect fix that is in the works. But if you already have NFTs that you've created outside of the game, then you can display those in your game using Moralis Web3 API. And just like other objects in the game, they can be picked up by the player. It all depends on how you program your game. Okay, let's see.
Sorry.
No, it's okay.
Oh, yeah. So one other thing, too. Someone's asking about if you're available on Twitter, David, or where people can run specific questions by you. I think we were talking about GatherTown. Maybe you want to tell people about that.
Yes. So after this, I think it's around, is it 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time? Is the gather town?
Yes. So it's
okay. So I plan to be there and hang out, and I can answer questions there as well. I also monitor the forums. I am on Twitter. I don't do a lot of tweets. I was in business for myself a few years ago, and I did a lot of tweeting, and it just took so much time away from business that it felt too much to hold, to work with. But I am on Twitter, and I can communicate that way. I have been monitoring it a lot more recently since coming to Moralis and working with Moralis. And I think it's just David B. Goodrich, but let me double check that. Like I said, it's not something I have been working with a lot. But
while David's looking that up, I just wanted to remind everyone to smash the like button and subscribe if you haven't already.
Yeah, so it's at David B. Goodrich is my Twitter account. And then again, I'm usually pretty active in the forums, so forums.moralis.io. And if there's a lot of people that want to communicate over Discord, I can use Discord as well, the Moralis Discord, to communicate. All right. See if we have questions throughout the hackathon. The best place to get answers is definitely the forum. That's Tropical Brick. Nemanja Divjak says, I have a question. I know it's in development, but what timeline to have a fully production-ready SDK? Well, so the parts that are there, again, the queries, live queries, cloud functions, all of that is functioning very well. We have the plugins to go. And then, of course, like we mentioned with the SDK, with the Unity integration, WebGL. So those are coming in the next couple months. So within 6 months, that's definitely a possibility. Hopefully very probable. Hope that answers the question. So we are definitely working to improve this all the time. Okay. Will there be interaction with IPFS, like putting an image? So yes, with the Web3 API, there is the server function, the storage function, upload folder. So you can interact with that today. Let's see. You mentioned signing apart from the initial sign-in can't be done. Oh, okay. So message signing, if you're working through Wallet Connect, is very simple. With the solution we currently have for iOS and Android, no, because that's going through Moralis Connect. And so the signing of that message happens outside of the game logic. And again, once we get the update from Wallet Connect integrated into the SDK, hopefully within the next couple of weeks, it'll be available inside the game logic for everything. Well, WebGL, once we get the WebGL stuff straightened out too. Which wallet can we use for Avalanche? Birdie, is that a question you can answer?
I'm not sure,
Okay.
but that might be, maybe drop it in our Discord. You can sign up for the Discord at moralis.io/mage. So check it out there, and you can find out more information in our Discord.
Okay. Which wallet do you guys prefer? I've always been more comfortable with MetaMask until I started working with mobile and, of course, with Wallet Connect, and it wasn't working. So for testing, I use Trust Wallet. Unfortunately, Trust Wallet doesn't really support developers really well. You can't change your the chains that you're interacting with. So for that, I like let's see, it is IM Token Wallet.
And I think also with the hackathon, there's no required wallet that you use. You can use whichever one you like, but there are certain prizes that you might qualify for. So if you do look on the website, you can see which of our partners and sponsors you can use to maybe qualify for more prizes, but there's no required wallet.
All right. How do I change the chain to Avalanche? So Avalanche is going to be one of your options on your server, and I would have to look up the chain ID. I don't know it off the top of my head. I wish I'd had that ahead of time, but that is another thing, Birdie, that we can look up and ask is the chain ID for Avalanche itself. And then you would just choose that. Okay, is David available on Twitter? Oh, we've answered that. Why button A kill the character? Oh, yeah. So, as I had mentioned, the characters in the boilerplate are low poly, and they have 4 animations, which are idle, walk, attack, and die. I didn't wire up the A and D or left and right arrow. And so what happens when you hit those, it just defaults to the last animation, which is die. Probably something I'll correct in the boilerplate. So that's why he falls over when you hit the A button. What about Unreal? Unreal uses C++ for scripting, so it's going to require another SDK. And I believe Ivan has mentioned that it is something that he wants to tackle a little bit later. So probably once we have everything working to the point that we want in Unity, a few months from now. Now, I don't want to promise that because it's not up to me. But I do know that the Unreal Engine is something that we want to tackle in the future. Okay. I have a Unity game for school children as I am a teacher. This is from Alex Mitpapa. I am planning to use Moralis, and children could receive educational token as a reward. Tell me how to make the transaction cheap. Use a layer 2 or a side chain. Again, Avalanche, Polygon. The transactions on those are very inexpensive, especially compared to the regular Ethereum chain. I hope this isn't a can of worms. There are ways that you can set up your contract to pay the gas yourself. That requires some contract layers. I think there's a third-party tool. It's something you have to Google, Alex. Google make my contract self-payable. And there are some tutorials you can find. There's some tools you can find to do that as well. But it means that you or your contract are paying the gas fees instead of your user. And it's pretty complicated to set up, but I know that's possible. Which wallet is more comfortable and reliable? From Salt Mango Tea. The one that seems to work flawlessly is Trust Wallet. I haven't had any problems with IM Token either. Trust Wallet, of course, like I said, doesn't allow you to change the chain that you're using, whereas IM Token does. It's just that anytime you do a signature or transaction, you also have to put in a separate password. So there's an extra step with using IM Token Wallet. But I found that as a very good substitute for MetaMask on mobile. How does this work with Solana? Oh, I forgot to mention that in the last slide. One of the things that we're going to implement in a future release is the API for Solana as well. And excuse me. This is great. Let's see. Yes, Moralis Forum is the best place to react with me. Let's see. And Birdie, if you're seeing questions that I'm missing, let me know. I'm just going down the list.
Yeah, no, you're good.
Okay, and I know we've only got a few minutes left of our time window.
People love your lamp.
A lot of good can't. I tried to make the ambiance nice, and I guess I was too hasty with the way I set it up. But okay, any other questions? I'm going to scroll back up toward the top because I know there's probably some up there that I had missed earlier. But if you see any come in at the bottom, let me know.
Yeah, if anyone has any questions, we're going to wrap up in a few minutes here, so try to get them in. Let's see, we have a couple that are coming in, David.
Okay.
At the bottom.
Cool. All right. Do you plan to make your own game? Yes. Actually, I had started working on one earlier to be a demo game, and it got too complicated for our initial release. And then the assets themselves were over a gig, and we decided that was too big for a boilerplate application. So yes, I do want to do a little bit more involved demo game that includes things like monsters dropping tokens that the character can then capture those tokens and redeem them and hold them. That monsters will drop some NFTs and that you'll get to keep those NFTs with your character. And then you've probably heard Ivan talk about that we're working on Metaverse, and part of working on Metaverse is being able to transfer items between world spaces. And that is something I'm very passionate about, something I'm really wanting to dig into. And so as part of the future development, as we're developing the SDK and developing where we're going, I'm hoping to create some tools around that and be able to demo those as well. So that's that. So immediate games that I'm going to be creating for Moralis will be demoing things like that. And then I have some ideas of some stuff of my own as well that are still ideas more than actuality.
And I was going to tell everyone too, to make a game if you're interested for the hackathon. It's going on right now, and you can find out more on the Moralis website. But yeah, I mean, I think workshops like this are great for giving you inspiration or helping you get started. I do see some merch questions. I don't have a code, but maybe we can look into it for next time. But
a code?
A code for the merch. I have seen on other streams will have like a discount, you know,
okay.
But I'm not aware of one right now.
All right. So Joseph Malecki is asking, would you say Moralis server is a sufficient replacement for a game server? What can Moralis handle and not handle with respect to traditional game servers? So with a game server, you're looking at something that's going to handle stuff mainly for multiplayer, I'm assuming is what you're asking for. And it's going to depend on what you want to happen on the back end. With the integration of your cloud functions, there is not much that I can think of that you wouldn't do on the back end. If you have a lot of heavy processing and so on, I would think that'd be possible too with the paid account. This is probably a good question that we can bring up with Ivan and ask him. But from what I've done in the past, I can't see anything that you would do with a normal game server that we wouldn't be able to do with Moralis. We may have to set up a little bit different because you have your cloud functions and you have your database. But yeah, I don't see why you couldn't. You'd have to have a paid program, especially if you have a lot of users. You'll want to split your game up into separate worlds because the backend processing is going to have a limit on the number of users that you want to handle in real time. Otherwise, you're going to introduce a lot of lag. So that's why in a lot of large multiplayer games, you've got separate regions, separate worlds. But if you if you divide your data properly into your game regions or world spaces, there's no reason why you couldn't use Moralis as your complete backend server. Okay, I have a question about storing metadata in a 3D game object in a map or piece of land in a 2D game. How is that done? So that's Liloch Zen, and I think that you're referring to NFTs, hopefully. At least in the crypto space, that's where I would store metadata. So the NFT itself has data that is stored on the contract and then data that are stored on the metadata. Generally, for traditional NFTs, the metadata are static. However, there's no reason why they have to be static. It's a simple JSON document that you can use as a data store. Now, you want to arrange that in such a way that it's not going to be arbitrarily updated, and you're going to want to know what is an official data release. For the original Moralis hackathon, I actually was doing that, and I created a scheme where I was storing a hash of the metadata on the contract. And so any change that was official to the contract or to the metadata, the whole metadata would be rehashed, and then that token, that hash token is stored back on the contract with that NFT. And then my application, using the Moralis database, would know what was the most recent data from the metadata. In case we ever had to do a rollback, it would be possible through that. So the combination of the backend database with hashing the metadata and storing that hash on the contract is how I handled making sure that the metadata were valid. So it's possible that, yes, you can update your metadata. And something else to remember that I want to bring up, because I don't see this a lot with NFT metadata, it needs its basic image, name, description, and then properties. But inside that properties can go anything that you want. Anything that you can put into JSON can go there. And so as long as you're able to interpret those data, you can have anything in there. That structure can be whatever you want it to be. And so that's something I don't think a lot of people look at. It's just JSON data. And you should let your imagination go wild and think out of the box about what you can store in the metadata. Okay. It is past time. Let's see.
Yeah, we can.
Okay. I'm going to, like we had said earlier, in an hour or so, I'm going to be hanging out inside the Gather, and I can answer more questions there as well.
Yeah, and I'll post the links in our Discord as well for the Gather Town. So we're going to have we're calling it Hackathon Work Together time. So last week we hosted some team building events in Gather. And then this week, if you want to come by and just talk about what you're building or just share ideas, it's pretty casual. David's going to be there answering questions. And I'm going to post the link right now in our Discord. So check it out at moralis.io/mage. And there you can sign up for our Discord. So yeah, thank you all for joining us today. We'll see you on the next one.
Hey, thanks everybody. It was great being here. Great seeing all your questions and comments. Thank you.
Thank you.